I never expected to find love in the lonely mansion of a heartbroken millionaire. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension as I stepped through the creaking doors of Harper Manor. Darkness lingered within, an unsettling silence enveloping every corner. Dust swirled in the feeble light, creating ghosts in the shadows. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat echoing like a warning. This place, this mansion, seemed alive, as if its very walls held secrets begging to spill. Rumors of a tragic love lost to despair clung to the air like the scent of old roses. It was said he'd never laughed again since the accident, that the once vibrant millionaire now roamed these halls with a ghostly figure etched in his mind. As I wandered deeper into the dimly lit rooms, portraits of stern ancestors glared down at me, their painted eyes flickering with hidden stories. Silverware gleamed dully atop an ornate table, untouched for years. The tension wrapped around me like a cold glove, suffocating yet thrilling. I was drawn to a glimmer in the far corner of the grand hall, a flicker of candlelight dancing wildly. With shaking hands, I moved toward it, adrenaline racing through me. My breath caught in my throat. Who would light candles in a house so riddled with sorrow? I pushed the wooden door, its hinges groaning in complaint. Inside, I found him, Jacob Harper. His eyes, once pools of warmth, were now bottomless pits of pain, haunted by shadows I could almost hear whispering his name. "Why are you here?" His voice was ragged, like gravel scraping against my heart. It held disbelief, anger, and something that sparked a flicker of hope deep within me. I wanted to mend what had been shattered, but how could I reach a man who had wrapped himself in a shroud of loss? A sudden crash from above made me jump. Gasping, I turned, adrenaline surging through my veins. Was it a ghost? Or simply the mansion settling? Whatever it was, my pulse quickened, the sensation of being watched palpable. I felt it in my Bonisa force drawing me into this labyrinth of despair. Just then, he stepped closer. The weight of his sadness filled the space between us, palpable and suffocating. "You shouldn't be here." His words trembled like the candle's flame, battling the dark. Could I find a way to save him? Or was he already lost to the shadows? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Something crucial was about to break. The walls around us seemed to echo with a challenge. A whispered question lingered in the air: is love really enough to heal a heart so shattered? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air hung heavy, thickening with unsaid words as the shadows danced around us. I felt the inexplicable pull towards Jacob, a force that challenged the impulse to flee from his broken world. "Why wouldn't I be here?" I asked, my voice softer than I intended, each syllable laced with empathy. "What if I want to help?" He hesitated, just for a fleeting moment, a crack in his stoic facade. But then, the weight of reality descended upon him like a shroud, and a flicker of anger ignited in his eyes, cutting through the darkness. "Help? You think you can help me?" His laughter was bitter, a sharp contrast to the vulnerability I sensed lurking beneath. "You have no idea what it's like to lose everything." The word struck a chord deep inside me, resonating with an ache I had always carried, even if it was different from his. "Maybe not everything," I murmured, "but I know what it means to feel lost." That he stepped back, the distance between us growing like a chasm. The shadows seemed to reach for him, wrapping around his frame, threatening to pull him back into the depths of his sorrow. I wanted to bridge that gap, yet fear rooted my feet to the spot. "What happened to your wife?" I dared to ask, desperate to understand the weight of his grief. A look of anguish crossed his face, and for a heartbeat, I glimpsed the man he used to be, alive and breathing with passion. But like a candle snuffed out, that spark vanished, replaced by a coldness that left me trembling. The silence lingered, pregnant with memories he wasn't ready to share. "She died," he whispered, the words falling from his lips like stones dropped into an abyss. "In a car accident. I was driving, ice flooded my veins, and I couldn't breathe." The weight of the confession lay heavy on both our shoulders. "I'm so sorry, Jacob," I said, meaning every word, and yet a part of me yearned to know Moretto illuminate the darkness surrounding him. "But you're still here. You're not lost to the shadows." A small voice in my head countered that with a question, "But are you any better?" Here I was, wandering through the ruins of another man's life, hoping to piece something together for both of us. But all my optimism felt like it was standing against a raging storm. "That I still hear her," he said, clutching at the air as though it could contain the memories. "Every day, every night, she calls to me. I can't escape the guilt, the pain." The raw sorrow in his words cut through my heart like a knife. "Maybe you don't have to escape it," I suggested cautiously, my thoughts dancing between hope and despair. "What if instead, you embraced it? Let it guide you forward, not hold you back." His gaze bore into mine, challenging me, a singular moment filled with potential for understanding or destruction. "You don't understand," he snapped, the haunted look in his eyes blinding me for an instant. "It's not just about her. It's my fault." "Then tell me," I urged gently, feeling the urgency swell within me. "Show me what you're holding on to, Jacob. Share it with me. You don't have to carry it all alone." As if the words had conjured a spell, he recoiled from the intimacy they demanded, but then slowly sank down on the ground, his back against the wall, shoulders heavy. I sat down across from him, the world around us fading, hovering in this fragile moment between confession and retreat. With every passing moment, I felt our stories intertwining, me pain meeting his, the potential for healing flickering like that lone candle, a soft glow in the suffocating darkness of the mansion. In that bizarre, haunted space, I felt a whisper of connection, a heartbeat, a longing for understanding. That a soft rumble echoed through the halls, more unsettling than the silence had been, stealing our attention. A sudden crash broke through the stillness, reverberating with new urgency, a reminder that we were not alone in this place. "What was that?" I asked, anxiety creeping up my spine, and before he could answer, the lights flickered ominously, plunging us into darkness for a terrifying heartbeat. When they returned, I dared to look at Jacob, only to find his expression transformed, not just with fear, but something deeper, something I couldn't quite reach. "What if it's a message?" he murmured, his voice barely registering above the chaos in our minds. "What if they're trying to tell me something?" As I searched his eyes, I felt the weight of his grief shift, an inexplicable fear coursing through me. What secrets lay buried within these walls? What mess of memories lay in wait, threatening to unravel us both? Before I could respond, a sudden crash from upstairs sent chills down my spine. With every instinct telling me to flee, I knew my answer wasn't just a question for him, it was a challenge for us both. What whispers had the mansion kept from time, and how long would we endure before the truth turned into our greatest torment? The echoes of the crash reverberated through the walls, a chilling reminder that the mansion was alive with secrets waiting to be unearthed. I could feel Jacob tense beside me, the tension palpable, like a taut string ready to snap. My heart raced as shadows flickered around us, twisted and grotesque in the dim light. "What if it's someone else?" I whispered, scanning the space, my pulse quickening at the thought of being intruded upon in our shared moment of vulnerability. "What if we're not alone?" Jacob's expression shifted, unleashing a torrential storm of emotions. Fear, anger, resentment, all mixed into a volatile cocktail I could barely comprehend. But within that chaos, I caught a glimpse of what I had long sensed beneath the surface: fragility. "I don't care," he said quietly, and his voice trembled, yet held a fierceness that took me aback. "No one understands what it's like. No one can help. Not even you." "But I want to try," I insisted, my voice earnest as I leaned closer, desperate to forge a connection. "What if we face whatever's up there together? You don't have to do this alone." He looked at me, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of hesitation, a glimmer of hope that perhaps he longed to shed his burden just as much as I did. But before he could respond, another crash echoed, louder this time like a door slamming shut somewhere deep within the bowels of the mansion. "Stay here," he ordered, standing abruptly, shifting from fragile to defensive in an instant, as though I had become nothing more than a burden. "I'll check it out, Jacob, wait," I called, panic gripping my heart. "I won't let you go alone." My desperation clawed at me as he stepped back, shadows contrasting against him, elongating him into a specter. "Do you think any of this is real?" he shot back, voice sharp as a blade. "You come here pretending to understand me, and yet you know nothing." The bitter laughter followed, high and unsettling like the breaking of glass. "You think your presence means something to me? You're just a distraction. You don't belong in this darkness." His words, meant to cut, pierced deeper than I expected. An inexplicable ache spread through my chest, blooming with memories of my own losses, my fears, the battles I fought silently. "Maybe I don't," I whispered, trying to find my steadiness amidst the storm. "But I refuse to abandon you. You're not just a shadow in a mansion, you're alive, Jacob. Don't deny yourself that." He paused, the air between us thick with tension, the unacknowledged desires and fears heavy upon our shoulders. In that stillness, I could feel the weight of everything unspoken, the world outside waiting, the darkness pressing in. "Fine," he relented, his voice now a low murmur, almost resigned. "But if I go, you're coming with me. Just stay close. There may be things in the dark that you don't want to see." With a determined nod, we moved cautiously, the mansion creaking around us as we ascended the staircase, each step echoing as if the house were groaning at our intrusion. The tension coiled tighter with every creak of old wood, every shudder of the walls. When we reached the second floor, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. It felt colder, the air trapped in a perpetual state of sorrow, wrapping around us like a funeral shroud. Jacob led the way, and every instinct screamed at me to retreat, but I pressed on, unwilling to abandon him to whatever haunted this place. We paused in front of a door shrouded in shadow, slightly ajar. A low, mournful sound seeped through the crack, echoes of what might have been laughter or cries, twisted together into a haunting melody of past lives. "This is it," Jacob said, his voice cracking with something raw and primal. "This is where she used to spend her time, before everything changed." A part of me wanted to pull away, wanting to shield him from whatever lurked within, but I stood firm. "You can do this," I whispered, brushing my fingers against his arm. "Well, face it together." With an unsteady breath, Jacob pushed the door open, revealing a room draped in shadows and dust, where memories lingered like forgotten ghosts. The air was thick with unspoken words, feelings suspended in time. My heart thundered in my chest, not just with fear but with something deeper, a rustling of hope. Perhaps here, amid the remnants of his past, we could confront what haunted both of us. But as I stepped inside, a gust of wind swept through the room, slamming the door shut behind us. The sound ricocheted through my mind, reverberating with palpable dread. I turned just in time to see the shadows twist, merging into a shadowy figure, dim and barely discernible, materializing in the far corner of the room. "Jacob," I breathed, panic rising as the figure slowly raised its head, revealing features I could barely recognize. And on its lips danced the echo of a smile I had seen only in fragments, a flash of light in Jacob's darkened memory. "Help me," the voice called, hauntingly familiar yet chillingly out of reach, sending remnants of ice lacing down my spine. And in that instant, I knew, the past was not as easily buried, and facing it might just unravel everything we'd hoped to build. The echo of that pleading voice wrapped around us like a chilling mist, thickening the air with dread. I glanced at Jacob, the torment on his face reflecting the agony of 1,000 nightmares. This wasn't just a shadow of his past, it was a wound exposed, fresh and seeping. Who is it?" I stuttered, my voice barely a whisper as terror coursed through my veins. I could see Jacob's jaw clench, muscles tight with unspeakable anguish. "It can't be," he rasped, stepping forward against the weight of my unwillingness to move. Every instinct screamed for me to pull him back. "She shouldn't be here. Not now. Not like this, Jacob, wait." I reached for him, desperation clawing my throat as I felt the distance between us stretch. You don't have to do this alone. Please, let's just stay back. He snapped, cutting off my plea. The dark figure, still barely visible, began to shift in the dim light, its features swirling into something almost tangible. I could feel the energy of the room, heavy with unresolved sorrows, pushing against my chest, forcing me to acknowledge the layer of grief that enveloped Jacob. It's her, Jacob choked, eyes wild. It's Anna. The name lodged itself in my throat, sharp and unfamiliar, as if it had the power to shatter the fragile connection we had built. Anna. The ghost of a love that lingered like an unwelcome guest, refusing to vacate his heart. The figure stepped forward, a flicker of life igniting its outline, and I caught a glimpse of sorrowful eyes, deep pools reflecting an eternity of heartbreak. The world around us faded, a backdrop to the unfinished story still playing out within these four walls. That I didn't mean to hurt you, the figure murmured, its voice wrought with emotion, sorrow and longing intertwined. I'm here. Just help me find peace, Jacob, I whispered, torn between the urge to comfort him and the visceral fear that was now scraping at my core. This isn't happening. She's not real, it's just a figment. But deep down, I grappled with the understanding that some shadows are born from love and loss, intertwined in a way that defies logic. As much as I wanted to peel Jacob away from this moment, I knew that he had to face it, even if it meant facing the depths of despair that threatened to drown us both. That I can't do this, he exclaimed, fists clenching at his sides, despair taking root in his voice. I can't keep pretending she's not in my life anymore when all I feel is her absence. Suddenly, Anna's image flickered, a phantom trapped within a veil that separated past from present. You are not alone, Jacob. I never wanted you to carry this pain alone, she said, reaching toward him with fingers that wavered like smoke. Tears brimmed in Jacob's eyes, a mingling of heartache and longing that twisted painfully in my chest. I could see the battle warring within him, a desire to reach out, to embrace the ghost of his past while simultaneously trying to release the heavy chains that bound him to it. My life ended the day you left, he shouted, the conviction behind his words reverberating through the cold room, a visceral reminder of the heartbreak he could no longer ignore. How can I possibly move on? And at that moment, Anna's figure wavered, confusion skimming her features like a shroud. You must choose, Jacob, she urged, a soft plea beneath the weight of despair. You must choose to let go. It's what I want for you. The room began to swim around me as the tension thickened, like molasses pulled taut over coals. I could feel my heart aching for Jacob, desperate to break through the heavy armor he had constructed from grief. Jacob, please, I stepped closer, willing him to hear me despite the pull of his past. It's okay to remember and still move forward. You don't have to choose one over the other. She loved you too much for that. The specter of Anna flickered, her gaze sorrowful yet compelling, as if she had plucked the despair straight out of Jacob's chest and cradled it gently. You are my heart, she whispered, the resonance of her words echoing in my soul. But your heart cannot stay in mourning. The shadows around Jacob began to swirl, threatening to sweep him under if he didn't act soon. But the struggle etched on his face bore the deepest conflict. Around us, time slowed and the air shifted with anticipation, and I desperately wanted him to see that there was still light beyond the veil of shadows. Taking a step towards him, every instinct against pulling him away from his memories, I reached out my hand, brushing my fingers along his forearm, a lifeline to the present. Jacob, choose to live. Choose to feel love again. I'm here, and I want to help you. In that moment, Anna's face softened, as if caught between her faded existence and the clarity of what Jacob needed now. But just as he turned toward my voice, the air shifted unexpectedly, a sudden gust snatching the specter of Anna from view, leaving behind only flickers of light. I will always be with you, her voice lingered, fading into an anguished echo before the darkness settled like a heavy blanket. Jacob. I rushed forward as he stumbled back, horror and heartache flashing in his gaze. Everything shifted in an instant, and I feared I had lost him to the shadows once more. The room pulsed with the weight of unsaid words, of love and lingering sorrow, trapped, bound to the darkness that embraced him so tightly. He blinked hard, as if rousing from a deep slumber, but there was an unmistakable shift in his expression. I felt her, he said, voice shaking as he gripped my shoulders. I can't lose her, no, no. You don't have to lose her, I insisted, panic rising. You can remember her while still letting yourself experience life, Jacob. Please. But just as those words escaped my lips, the floorboards shuddered beneath us with an ominous creak, as the walls seemed to close in, pulsing with a life of their own. Then, a new chilling voice echoed through the chamber, "You will pay for your defiance." The shadows thickened, swirling with menace, as tendrils of darkness snaked around Jacob and me, clinging desperately, threatening to pull us both into an abyss from which there would be no return. In that moment, I knew this was only the beginning. And as the mansion shuddered and darkness deepened, every whispered promise of hope threatened to unravel. We had to break free from the shackles of the past or risk being consumed entirely. Panic surged through me as the tendrils of darkness coiled tighter around Jacob and me, their grasp icy and unyielding. The ominous voice echoed again, weaving fear into the fabric of our already frayed reality, "You will pay for your defiance." Jacob's grip on my shoulders tightened as he turned to face me, his eyes wide with a mix of anguish and defiance. "We have to fight this, I can't lose you too," he murmured, desperation lacing his words. I could feel the tremors in his hands, and I knew we were not just battling the shadows of his past, but also the specters of our shared fears that we will face this together. I spoke with more conviction than I felt, pulling him closer, willing my warmth to seep into him, hoping to sever the growing bond between him and the darkness. "Focus on me, on use and what we can create in this moment, not what haunts you," that he nodded, though uncertainty flickered in his gaze, a vivid reminder that while he was physically here, his heart remained tethered to a sorrow that overshadowed everything. "If only it were that easy," he replied, his voice low, laced with a deep melancholy that made me ache for him. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward, and I felt the weight of countless lost souls press against us, their whispers drowning out everything else. Jacob stiffened, as if the very essence of Anna's anguish surrounded him, beckoning him back into those dark depths. "Anna!" he cried out, a warrior's desperation in his tone. "What do you want from me?" A flicker of light emerged from the darkness, forming a translucent figure that bore an uncanny resemblance to Anna. Her expression was one of heartache and compassion as she hovered uncertainly, caught within the turbulent emotional currents that spiraled around us. "Jacob," she whispered, ethereal and haunting. "You have to believe in love again. I don't want to see you lost forever in my memory, but how can I when you're the ghost that haunts me?" He shouted back, a mix of love and rage boiling over. His sorrow felt palpable, and it struck a chord deep within my own heart. As if sensing our turmoil, the shadows shifted, tethers of dark energy snapping like frayed ropes, each crack echoing the pain of 1,000 goodbyes. It was as though Anna understood that her presence, while an anchor, could also imprison Jacob in the past. "Don't let the darkness drown you, Jacob," Anna urged, her figure shimmering under the weight of her words. But the shadows fought back, thrumming with bitterness, a profound lamentation reverberating in the walls of the mansion. "I see you," I breathed, glancing at her, despair etched in every feature. "But you must let him go. He needs to move forward, for both of you." The mist around us began to swirl faster, an angry tempest that sought to engulf our voices. "You don't understand," Anna cried, her form wavering. "My love for him is eternal, but so is his pain. He must feel it to find me again." "Jacob," I turned to him, holding his gaze fiercely, a flicker of hope igniting between us. "You can honor her memory by living, not merely surviving. Please, choose to stay with me. Choose life." For a brief moment, the glow of Anna's presence brightened, a momentary truce between love and sorrow. But the shadows surged again, chaotic and uncontrollable, tightening their grip around us as anger boiled beneath the surface. "Enough with this defiance," the dark voice roared, mingling with the rushing energies, creating a tempest that threatened to tear apart our connection. "You cannot deny your heart's true allegiance, Jacob. You will suffer the consequences." With that, the darkness surged forward violently, clamping its cold hands over Jacob's heart, sending shockwaves through his body. He gasped, eyes widening as he reeled from the impact, a palpable pain etched onto his face. "I can't breathe," he choked, falling to his knees, the shadows tightening until it seemed as though despair would consume him whole. "Fight, Jacob," I urged, shifting closer, wrapping my arms around him despite the freezing darkness that wanted to snatch him away. "Remember the love, the joy. It's heavier than the shadows, I swear it is." His chest heaved, struggling against the weight pressing down, but a flicker of recognition crossed his face. "Love," he echoed, clinging to the thread I offered him. "That's what I need to remember." As if hearing his confession, the shadows quivered, withdrawing just slightly in response to his struggle. "You will have to choose," they hissed, seething with fury. "Choose what the heart desires most. But know this, in every choice, there will be a cost. Jacob, choose now," I urged, my heart pounding like a drum echoing through the tension-filled air. I could feel the pulse of both love and loss enveloping us, each pulse a painful reminder of what stood on the precipice. "I don't want you to get dragged into this pain," he gasped, the tears streaming down his face, glistening with the weight of his unchosen grief. "I can't hurt you like I hurt her." "You're not hurting me by embracing her memory, Jacob," I implored, desire pouring from me. "You're hurting yourself by refusing to live. You may have loved her, but you have room in your heart for both love and loss. Don't let this moment be your undoing, let it be your truth." With a mighty wrench, he grasped my hand, holding it as if it were the last tether to light. "I choose to fight for us." Suddenly, the shadows roared in response, rage rolling through the room as they struggled against the bonds of his decision. A furious wind whipped through the mansion, filling the air with cries of torment. But just as Jacob's grip on my hand tightened, the ground beneath us began to tremble ominously. The darkness surged again, and in that moment, I saw a flash of something in his eyes, an understanding tinged with fear, a revelation that changed everything. "Stop!" Jacob shouted, as a low rumble echoed around us. But it was too late. In his declaration of choice, another part of the mansion hidden from view began to unravel, a door glowing softly as it pushed against the shadows and lightened the oppressive air. With one last glance at Anna's fading figure, panic clawed at my heart. "Jacob, what did you just do?" Before he could answer, the mansion shook violently, and the wall began to crack, revealing an unexpected blinding light. That a guiding light flooded through the cracks, pulling us toward it with a force greater than the encroaching darkness. "Jacob!" I shouted as the shadows screamed, tearing through the room, threatening to pull us back into their depths. But as the light surged, I caught a glimpse of Anna's face one last time. Her expression was calm but tinged with an underlying message. The path he'd chosen rattled all elements in this spectral battle, and in that instant, everything shifted, a revelation hovering on the brink of existence. "Jacob!" I screamed in desperation, as we were pulled toward the door just as the darkness lunged to claim us both. Our worlds collided with a shattering force, and the last thing I saw was Jacob's terrified face twisted in revelation before the light shattered the shadows entirely. The light enveloped us, a radiant warmth contrasting sharply with the chilling grip of the shadows that had tried to drown us. In that moment of liberation, I grasped Jacob's hand tighter, my heart racing as if it could escape the confines of my chest. We were caught in an unveiling of force that felt both familiar and alien, dragging us into a new realm of uncertainty. As the brilliance thickened around us, I felt a deep rumbling in my core, a mixture of exhilaration and terror. Jacob's face, illuminated by a kaleidoscope of colors, twisted between hope and desperation, his eyes darting to the darkness behind us. Whatever had just happened, it was monumental. "Stay with me!" I cried, but my voice was almost drowned out by the rushing sound of an unseen current, pulling us further into the blinding light. For an instant, I glimpsed a flicker of Anna's figure, her spectral form merging with the radiance. "Remember," she beckoned softly, voice fading like a wisp of smoke. "You must choose to love." Then, there was a wrenching sensation like being unmoored from everything I knew. The pull of light became overwhelming, swallowing us whole, even as I fought to remember the sound of Jacob's breathing. A momentary connection to sanity amidst the chaos slipping through my fingers like sand, and then, silence. We landed with a thud on a surface that felt unspeakably solid, grass beneath our bodies, alive with warmth, yet a dissonance filled the air around us. The light dissipated like a fading memory, revealing a landscape that felt oddly surreal, as if it existed between dreams and waking, between hope and despair. The sky was painted in hues of lavender and gold, casting an ethereal glow over a sprawling field bordered by a line of ancient trees. Yet, the beauty felt foreboding, with shadows creeping in the corners of my vision, teasing at the edges of this newfound space. "Jacob?" I murmured, pushing myself upright, scanning the field fervently for any sign of him. He lay a few feet away, tangled in his own limbs, eyes squeezed shut as he breathed in short, rapid bursts. The sudden shift from a life-threatening struggle to this place seemed too surreal. The air smelled sweet, yet the tension that enveloped us was oppressive. "Jacob!" I cried again, urgency clawing at my throat. I crawled over to him, brushing his sandy hair from his forehead. He opened his eyes slowly, foggy with confusion and something else, fear. "What just happened?" he whispered, his voice shaky. "We were taken, I think," I replied, trying to grasp the edges of what had just transpired. "But this place? I'm not sure if it's safe." Before Jacob could respond, a shiver ran down my spine. A low hum resonated through the air, the sound warbling with a discontent that prickled like static against my skin. "Do you feel that?" Jacob asked, anxiety pulsing with each word. "What is this place?" "I don't know. It feels alive," I said, peering into the shadows that threatened to encroach upon us. The beauty around us was overshadowed by the unsettling feeling that we were not alone. Then, from the depths of the trees, a figure emerged, gliding with an unsettling grace, a tall woman draped in a flowing gown that shimmered like starlight. Her dark hair cascaded around her shoulders, framing a lantern-like face illuminated by a soft glow. There was an air of haunting familiarity in her presence. "I am Seraphine," she spoke, her voice a melody wrapped in sorrow, echoing across the field. "Welcome to the threshold of choices." Jacob tensed beside me, gripping my arm as he whispered, "What does that mean?" Seraphine's gaze flickered between us, a deep understanding in her emerald eyes that felt unsettling yet tender. "This is a place of healing and remembrance, where souls meet in reflection." She paused, and a heavy silence fell. "But it's also a crossroads. You must confront the shadows of your hearts." "Confront?" I whispered, panic rising again. "We've fought so hard to escape them." "Escaping is not the answer," she replied softly. "To truly find love and to honor the past, you must face what haunts you." At her words, Jacob fell silent. Thoughts swirling. Did she mean Anna? Did our declaration of fighting against the darkness require us to embrace the very memories we sought to escape? "What do we have to do?" he asked, his shoulders slumping as defeat mingled with determination. "There will be trials," Seraphine replied, gesturing toward the trees that stood vigilant against the horizon. "You will be tested in ways that may tear at the very fabric of who you believe yourselves to be. But through the trials, clarity will emerge." "Clarity?" I echoed, but fear coiled tighter around me. "What if we fail?" "Failure is simply a stepping stone," Seraphine reassured us, her voice like music. "But know that love is often intertwined with suffering. To embrace one, you must recognize the other. You will discover the intertwining paths of pain and hope." "Is this how it ends?" Jacob asked, voice trembling with uncertainty. "Facing the past in a field of dreams?" "No," Seraphine murmured, an inexplicable sadness reflected in her gaze. "It is only the beginning, the first step toward your liberation. The choice to heal lies within your hearts. Choose wisely." With a graceful flick of her wrist, the shadows in the trees shuddered, swirling like mist in the air. The ground beneath us trembled. The trials were beginning. "Jacob," I said, my heart pounding in fear and resolve. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." He looked at me, a flicker of hope igniting in his dark, haunted eyes. "Together." "Well, remember." But as we stepped forward, the shadows snapped to attention, spiraling out from the trees, morphing into figures shaped like pain echoes of our pasts, unrelenting specters embodying our deepest fears. Among them, I could see Anna's figure flickering like a sorrowful star, and I felt my heart lurch at the sight. "Jacob," I whispered, dread swirling in my stomach. "This is going to hurt." Jacob steadied himself, taking a deep breath as shadows advanced. "Whatever lies ahead, we don't have a choice anymore," he said, gripping my hand like a lifeline. "We will fight. For love. For healing. And for each other," but then I felt an unexpected shudder, a clandestine chill in the air. Just as the first shadow lunged, an overwhelming wave of recognition washed over me. It wasn't merely Anna stepping forth. Buried in the shadows lay something more tormenting, something buried deep in the labyrinth of our pasts that I froze, dread freezing the very blood in my veins. A glance from Jacob, a silent question passed between us, igniting a gnawing realization. "Not her. Not now." I blurted, panic swelling as shadows twisted into something more sinister, but as the darkness loomed and our resolve was tested, the weight of revelations hung heavy in the air. The ties binding us to our pasts tightened, reminding us that even light casts shadows unexpected, haunting, unending. And in that moment, as the shadows loomed closer, I feared I would discover truths about us that might shatter everything we had fought for. The shadows crept closer, their forms becoming indistinct yet chillingly familiar, pulling at the seams of my heart. I took a half-step back, but Jacob's grip on my hand remained firm, grounding me as the ambience thickened with a foreboding tension that sent ripples of dread through my chest. "That I can't do this," I whispered, fear tugging at my throat like a noose. "What if we uncover things we can't handle, then we handle them together," Jacob responded, his voice steadier than I felt. "We've come too far to turn back now." His eyes sparkled with a determination I desperately wished I could mirror. Before I could return his gaze, one of the shadows morphed into a figure I knew all too well, my mother. The air became heavy with her presence, mixing the scent of lavender with regret and heartbreak. I had buried memories of our last moments together beneath layers of time, yet here she stood, translucent and desperate for recognition. "Why have you come, Emma?" she asked, her voice echoing through the field with a sadness that echoed my own past sorrows. "Why do you choose to run from me?" I hesitated, struggling against the wave of emotions crashing over me. "I didn't choose to run from you," I replied, tears blurring my vision. "I was running from the pain of losing you. What if the pain is what you need to confront?" she urged, her form flickering with each unresolved memory. "You can't move forward if you deny the truth of what happened. What more is there to understand?" My voice trembled under the weight of so many unspoken words. "What lies in the midst of my past that could possibly help me now? It's not about the truth, Emma. It's about forgiveness." Her words lingered heavy in the air. "Forgiveness for me, and forgiveness for yourself." Just as her form shimmered, an echoing laughter filled the air, pulling me out of my moment of reflection. It was the unmistakable sound of Anna, that sweet yet haunting giggly, a sound that had once brought so much light to Jacob's life before it was swallowed by darkness. Such a pity. Anna's shadow danced gracefully, flickering like a flame on the edge of a wick. "You fought so hard to escape your past, only to find that it's spiraling back to haunt you both. You seek forgiveness, yet your hearts remain shackled." My heart dropped, the twin pangs of sorrow and frustration warring within me as I turned to Jacob, whose expression was torn between anguish and fierce determination. "Well, face them together," he murmured, louder now, his voice reverberating across the field as if summoning strength from the very ground beneath us. I drew in a shaky breath, raising my chin despite the fear constricting my throat. "I don't need you to save me," I said, the fervor of my defiance swelling. "I need you to fight alongside me." As I spoke, I was suddenly engulfed by a rush of warmth from Jacob's grip. Perhaps it was the promise of support, or perhaps it was the light flickering within the shadows, emboldening me to tread deeper into the labyrinth of my own heart. As if sensing my resolve, the shadow of Anna drifted closer, her expression softening. "You think confronting us will grant you closure? Yet your heart is still tethered to the ache of our stories. You don't just need to face us, you need to embrace the love that once was." And with those words, I glimpsed the reality that lay before me. It was not simply about battling the shadows, it was about understanding them, about giving voice to the grief I had hoarded like a precious gem, never daring to acknowledge how it had scarred me. But love was not a scarcity, it was vast and messy, intertwining with the threads of loss and hope. Jacob's voice broke through the chaos, grounding my swirling thoughts. We've all lost pieces of ourselves in the fight against darkness, he said, stepping closer to both of our shadows. Yet those pieces can still be healed, but not if we run from them. Acceptance, I thought, the realization blooming in my heart like a new dawn breaking against a starry sky. Perhaps this was the key Seraphine had spoken of. The path toward healing lay in acknowledging the darkness that birthed the love we had lost. Then, as if the air itself shimmered with understanding, the shadows withdrew momentarily, their fierce intensity changing into something softer, more tender. I reached out, my palm brushing against Anna's cool essence. I do forgive you, I said, my voice stronger now. For the choices made, for the pain caused, for the love we lost. I forgive you. At my words, a distant echo of warmth brushed against my skin, a gentle caress that unfolded like the petals of a flower. The shadows shifted, and I saw through the veil of loss fragmented memories of joy, laughter shared, moments that connected us in ways I had spent so long denying. Jacob squeezed my hand, his eyes reflecting the same tangled mixture of remembrance. We will find a way through together. But before we could step forward, a deep rumble disrupted the newfound peace, the very ground beneath our feet trembling with intensity. The shadows began to surge once more, coiling around us like violent winds, determined to reclaim what we just attempted to accept. Run! Jacob shouted, but something deeper clenched at my heart. Instead of fleeing, I stood firm, my feet rooted in the earth beneath me. No. We faced them. My voice rang with decisiveness, defiance coursing through me like fire. Yet just as my resolve solidified, the most bewildering shadow emerged from the depths, a figure that turned the earth to ice in my veins. An unexpected truth ignited within the depths of the gathering darkness. Emma. The shadow whispered, distorted yet familiar, sending shockwaves through every fiber of my being. Why are you here? I gasped, confusion and horror flooding through me as I gazed into the swirling essence of a figure I thought I would never see again. That it was someone I once knew, intimate, a messenger of betrayal, a whisper of pain threatening to unravel everything I had sought to rebuild. A flicker of recognition crossed Jacob's face, grounding me in impossible heartbreak. And as the realization sank in, a single question crystallized in the air between us. Were we still fighting for love, or had we stumbled unwittingly right back into the dark heart of heartache? The shadows coiled tighter, wrapping the remnants of my courage in a cocoon of dread. I willed myself to breathe, but the chill of the familiar silhouette froze the air in my lungs. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't accept that this betrayal had returned, lingering like a ghost in the corridors of my memory. Emma. The shadow spoke again, and the name echoed with a haunting familiarity that made my heart ache. I've been searching for you. It's time to face the truth. Why now? I barely managed, my voice quaking with the weight of disbelief. All the unresolved feelings battled for dominance in my heart, a tumult of anger, betrayal, and an inexplicable yearning for the past that was now shrouded in regret. Because you can't escape me forever, the figure replied, inching closer until I could make out the fractured features of someone I had once loved deeply. Nathan. The memories of our once easy laughter rushed back, suffocating in their beauty, sharpening the edges of my wounds. Jacob took a step forward, his body tensing as he readied himself to shield me. What do you want from her? He demanded, his voice low and firm, becoming a fortress I could lean against in this surge of torment. I want her to understand the choices we made, Nathan's shadow insisted, flickering slightly, betraying the inner turmoil that roiled beneath. The choices that drove us both apart. Choices? I echoed bitterly, the reverberation of the words snapping against my heart like a whip. You made choices that pushed me into darkness, Nathan. You broke what we had, and now you come back to play the victim? No, he said earnestly, the pitch of his voice softening, wistfulness sliding into his words. I come back to seek understanding and offer closure. Closure. The laugh that escaped me was humorless, a twisted sound spitting through clenched teeth. You think that acknowledging the pain somehow undoes it? That time could heal the wounds you carved open. As I glared into the shadowy haze around me, I was surprised to see Anna standing alongside Jacob. Her form shimmered under the weight of my rising fury, a calmness expressed in her presence that I had not expected. She reached for Nathan, her ethereal fingers brushing the veil of distance between them. "Let her speak," Anna whispered to the shadow of Nathan, her gaze merciful. "You've never truly listened, have you?" Nathan faltered, indecision flickering across his form. He began but faltered, eyes drifting away as if grappling with the remnants of our past. "No," I interjected, my heart pounding like thunder within my chest. "You don't get to hide behind the facade of guilt and nostalgia. You left me, Nathan. When I needed you most, you abandoned me." His shadow stretched, quivering with the admission I yearned to hear. "I didn't know how to stay," he confessed, each word echoing with the vulnerability I had not anticipated. "I thought it was for the best to give you space from my pain." That my breath caught, memories flooding back, late night conversations, vulnerable confessions made under the stars, each word tangled with love, yet anchored in the weight of his sorrow. The shadows around us began to respond, shifting like a tempest wrestling for air, empathy and hurt swirling together. It felt as if every unresolved feeling was reaching out, demanding acknowledgement, but before I could respond, another shadow emerged, twisting on the cusp of the Chao-San, unfamiliar presence that intermingled with fear and hope. "Emma," it called, the voice honeyed yet painful, swirling around my heart like tendrils of smoke. "Don't forget, love is not just about forgiveness, it's also about learning." "Who are you?" I managed, my voice trembling as I studied the new figure that emerged from the depths of my own heartache. "I am what you've lost in your quest for closure," it said, a glimmer of light illuminating the edges of its form. "I embody all the moments of love that remain unclaimed. Those fragments of joy, laughter, and warmth are still yours, waiting for acceptance." The weight of the figure's words crashed over me like a wave. I felt the warmth of kindness wrapping around my heart, rekindling those glowing memories I feared were extinguished forever. But the shadows roared, their furious whispers threatening to drown out the hope sprouting from within. "You still haven't faced the truth, Emma. There's more you must discover before you can truly unveil the path forward. This place, this moment, it's only the beginning." I felt as if I were standing on the cusp of a precipice. The truth was not just hidden within Nathan, or the painful memories of my past, it lurked deep within myself. As the shadows morphed and trembled, longing echoed inside me, and I could feel Jacob's strength anchoring me amidst the chaos. I realized now that facing every fragment of love, even those that hurt, was the only way to reassemble the pieces of my heart. "Do you believe we can rebuild the love we lost?" I found myself asking Nathan, vulnerability creeping in. And at that moment, the ground beneath us trembled anew, a foreshadowing of greater trials to come. As I prepared myself for Nathan's answer, I felt an underlying pulse vibrating through the shadows as if they were alive, an ominous reminder that the path we sought would not come without challenges and sacrifice. But just then, with a jarring twist, the ground split open beneath us, spilling forth a choir of distant wails, warnings of what lay ahead, ripping through the fragile veil of hope that had just started to unfurl. "Emma!" Jacob shouted, reaching for me. The shadows surged, creating barriers between us and the figures we once knew, as silence bled into chaos. And as the darkness threatened to consume me completely, I heard those haunting words once more: "The truth lies not in what has been lost, but in what you are willing to embrace." Would I find the courage to accept the love woven through pain, or would the shadows pull me under, dragging away my last chance at healing? The noise of rumbling earth drowned out my thoughts, the chaotic whispers resting at the edges of my mind. Just as swiftly as the ground had split open, a surge of darkness pulsed outward like a tidal wave, drowning any tentative glimmer of hope I had dared to clutch. "Emma!" Jacob's voice shattered through the clamor, but the shadows that enveloped me shifted with a ferocious hunger, twisting like wild serpents, wrapping me tighter until panic clawed at my chest. "Jacob!" I screamed back, reaching out, but the distance felt infinite, an abyss carved by betrayal and past wounds. The shadows literally yanked me, forcing me deeper into their mournful embrace, and then, an unexpected glint broke through, a small flicker of light amidst the chaos, an ephemeral figure emerging from the shadows. It sparkled with soft luminescence, illuminating the dark as if it understood the weight of my pain. "Emma, listen." The figure urged, its voice like a soothing balm. You need to awaken the love that lies dormant within you. In me. I shouted over the rampaging tumult of despair. How can I love when all I feel is betrayal? Yet, as I looked closer, confusion took shape along the edges of this figure. It was my younger self, an embodiment of joy, innocence, and the belief that love could conquer all. She stood with eyes wide, filled with a passion for life that had dimmed in the face of heartbreak. Remember who you are, she said, her voice soft yet unwavering. We must not forget the love we gave, the laughter we shared, and the dreams we nurtured. They have not been erased. Collect them, embrace them, make them whole again. That I felt a dampness wash over me, a bittersweet nostalgia that tugged at my heart. The laughter we shared wasn't just a memory, it was a reservoir, something to be submerged in, to fuel the flame I thought I had lost. Your heart is not merely a battleground, she continued, her light becoming warmer. It is a garden waiting for you to tend to it. Each painful moment held within is but a seed, waiting for the right soil to bloom, but just as clarity began to settle, the murmur of shadows became an overwhelming cacophony. They roared with anguished cries, echoing themes of guilt, regret, and betrayal, clawing desperately at my resolve. Don't listen to her. Nathan's shadow thundered, its frantic energy twisting against the light. You'll only invite more pain, more loss. Somewhere within me, a voice sparked in defiance. No. This is not just your journey, Nathan. I survived your leaving, and I will survive the truth. You can't hold me prisoner with your regrets. In that moment of fierce defiance, the fractures around me began to widen. The twice-echoed breaths of past adversities slowed, granting me the space to inhale deeply, to allow clarity to flood in. I met my younger self's gaze, the compassion reflected there, igniting a pulse of courage that wrapped around me. We need to acknowledge the light and the dark, I said, my voice firm even as the shadows clawed at me. Only then can I reclaim my heart. With a resolute nod, my younger self stepped closer, seamlessly melding into me, filling the void where doubt had nestled. I felt a rush of warmth seep into my bones, igniting every corner of my heart. Love was not destroyed but transformed, waiting for me to embrace it once more. Tell me the truth, I breathed, the shadows shifting uneasily, recoiling from the light that now radiated from within. Where have we gone wrong, and how do we heal? The ground beneath us heaved again, a quake that felt alive, pulsating with an ache reminiscent of long-buried sorrow. All at once, the shadows retreated, revealing glimpses of the path I had once walked, tainted yet glinting with shards of sunlight. The truth, Nathan's voice came, trembling and raw, cutting through the fear. Is not easy. It's filled with the scars we created. But before he could continue, a new shadow surged forth, its presence heavy and engulfing. This new figure claimed the space, wearing bitterness like armor. The truth does not matter to those who choose to forget. It spat. Silence echoed as I struggled against the pull of hopelessness that this new figure exuded. I looked back at Jacob, who stood firm, his brow knitted with concern, yet his arms outstretched an anchor amidst uncertainty. Love cannot just exist in fantasy, he said softly, resonating with the authenticity I craved. Sometimes, love demands the truth, even when it's painful, even when it's shrouded in darkness. I asked, especially then, he replied, the intensity of his gaze conveying unwavering belief. The clash of these emotions swirled around me, a vortex of love, longing, bitterness, and hope. The choice lay heavy upon my heart, the fate of my own story dangling in the balance. As the shadows drew close once more, their whispers an overwhelming force wrapped in urgency, I realized the path ahead was merciless yet beckoned in its complexity. A flickering light, however, remained within, stubbornly refusing to be snuffed out, and just as I braced for the weight of Nathan's truth, a sudden, blinding flash sliced through the darkness. For a fleeting second, I caught a glimpse of a doorway, bright and inviting, glimpses of freedom swirling at its edges. Emma. Jacob called, his voice a tether, pulling me back to the present. My heart raced, caught between the shadows that threatened to consume or enlighten, as I faced the ultimate question of my existence. Could I bear the tumult of truth needed to reshape the love I both craved and feared? With the shadows closing in and an impending storm clawing at the edges of my resolve, I hesitated, feeling the precipice beneath my feet shift again, unsettled yet achingly familiar. As echoes of laughter intertwined with the moans of shadows around me, I dared to step forward, not knowing whether I would find liberation or descent into despair when the dawning answers finally broke free from that wretched darkness. I awoke in the field with my heart thundering, a storm of emotions swirling within me. The blinding light faded, leaving behind the remnants of battles fought and tears shed. I felt different, yet unsettled, something profound having shifted inside. Jacob lay nearby, his face etched with an expression of hope and trepidation that mirrored my own. I took a deep breath, the sweet, heavy scent of lavender lingering in the air, an echo of my memories wrapped in softness. Beside us, the shadows lingered at the fringes, pulsing like a heartbeat. The moment was pregnant with the unspoken truths that awaited us. As I helped Jacob to his feet, he looked at me with an intensity that sent a jolt through my core. "What happens now?" he asked, the tremor in his voice revealing the vulnerability he had fought so hard to hide. I gestured toward the shadows, feeling their weight pressing down on us like thick fog. "We face them together." A flicker of fear crossed his face, but I stepped closer, taking his hand between mine. "We've already come so far. We know our ghosts now, we cannot run from them. We need to acknowledge what's been lost to find what can still be saved." With every step we took toward the darkness, my heart raced with uncertainty, yet, there was something cleansing about it, as if I were shedding layers that had dulled my spirit. Jacob squeezed my hand, grounding me, reminding me that I was not alone. As we approached, shadows began to morph and twist, revealing lost moments and buried emotions, each reflection tugging at the edges of my grief. "These shadows," I whispered, "they're the fragments of our past. For them to be released, we must embrace the love entwined within." With a determined nod, Jacob took a step forward, the power of his presence igniting a flicker of light between us. "I'm ready," he said, voice steady despite the palpable tension surrounding us. "I need to face Anna. I owe her that much." "Me too," I replied, my voice trembling as I thought of my own past, me mother's shadow, Nathan's betrayal. "We owe it to ourselves to find the truth." The shadows coiled around us, thick with sorrow and promise, and in that moment, I could almost feel the echoes of the past synchronize with our resolve. The air hummed with anticipation, resonating with the memory of laughter meant to heal as much as it had hurt. Before us, the shadows broke apart, revealing Anna, her ghostly figure radiant yet insubstantial. I felt Jacob's hand tighten around mine, a silent promise to stand firm against the tide of anguish threatening to break our fragile bond. "Anna," he breathed, stepping closer, his gaze penetrating the ethereal darkness. "Jacob," she interrupted, her voice barely a whisper yet reverberating with clarity. "Thank you for coming. I've felt your pain, and I have waited for this moment of truth." Her presence shimmered, a bittersweet mix of love and absence that created a space where the past could live while allowing our present to breathe. "You must let me go," she said softly, an air of acceptance surrounding her as if she were an unwritten chapter waiting for closure. "In holding on to me, you've denied yourself a future. You deserve to feel joy again, Jacob. You cannot do that bound by grief." He faltered, emotion crashing over him like a wave, guilt swirling in his expression. "But I don't want to forget you. How can I when you were everything?" "But I am not everything anymore," Anna urged, her voice steady. "You must choose to honor my memory, to learn from our love, not to let it imprison you. You are allowed to heal, Jacob, to find new love." In the depths of my heart, I felt the weight of Anna's words sink in, not just for Jacob, but for myself too. Nathan's shadow flickered beside her as if echoing her sentiment, coaxing the corners of my heart to accept. "All the moments we shared," I murmured. "They mean so much more than just pain. They were love. We can carry them with us, as lessons." Jacob's tears glimmered like stars against the night sky. "I wish I could let you go," he murmured. "I wish I could liberate the chains that bind me to this grief." "Then do it," Anna urged, her figure radiating a warmth that washed over us, a gentle reminder of the love we held but hadn't allowed ourselves to embrace. "Choose a path forward, Jacob. Release me," and with that, "You release the hurt." With a shuddering breath, he nodded, and as he did, his grip on my hand grew stronger. The shadows began to lift, as if sensing his resolve. "I choose to let go of the pain," he declared, eyes glimmering with newfound determination. "I choose to remember the love." A profound silence enveloped us as the shadows retreated, the air filled with an echoing chorus of laughter, a reminder of brighter days. Anna's form shimmered, dissolving into a haze of light before transforming back into the familiar warmth of love felt within memories. In that moment, we enveloped each other not as a burden, but as both of us whole and free. Realizing my strength, I started to step back, preparing to take down my own shadows. "I too must learn to let go," I told the flickering figure of my mother that hovered just beyond the edges of light. "I forgive you for leaving me, and I forgive myself for trying to forget. I want to learn from that pain, to celebrate what our love represented." As those words poured from my heart, the weight I had carried lifted, brightening the shadows clinging to the edges of my memories. My mother smiled softly, her essence flickering with acceptance. "You were strong enough to carry it even when you didn't know it," she whispered. "But now, you possess the power to flourish." With every word spoken, a weight slipped away, replaced by understanding. I smiled as the shadow of Nathan stepped into view, uncertainty etched on his features. "It's time for my truth," I whispered, steadying my breath as memories flooded back, both our laughter and our fights, our dreams intertwined before it all crumbled. I took a step closer to him, meeting his eyes, seizing every ounce of grace within me. "You were my first love, Nathan. You taught me what it means to care, to be vulnerable. But you also transformed love into fear, leaving scars in your wake. I cannot rewrite our past, but I can choose to heal." A flicker of recognition crossed Nathan's face, and the shadows around him pulsed in time with his heart. "Forgive me," he mouthed, voice trembling with pent-up guilt. "I lost myself and dragged you down with me. I only wanted to protect you." "I can forgive you," I said softly, tears spilling from my eyes. "But I can no longer allow our past to define my future. I choose to love and cherish the lessons you've brought me. It's time we both find our way home." The hand I extended towards Nathan trembled, but that same warmth ignited between us, flickering promise and understanding as the shadows drifted away. "Together," he whispered, his form glowing like embers within the darkness, and as everything hung suspended in possibility, I smiled. A crack split through the shadowy barricade as layers of light blossomed from our hearts. "We've learned, haven't we?" Jacob murmured beside me, the warmth of his presence igniting an incandescent joy within me. "Yes," I replied, gazing at him with a newfound tenderness. "Together we've learned to carry our stories while still making room for new ones." A symphony of laughter erupted as the light began to envelop us, illuminating the shadows that had once threatened to consume my heart. In this moment, every facet of pain transformed into a mosaic of yearning, joy, heartache, and growth coming together as a testament to our love. We walked through the gates of light side by side, stepping confidently into a new dawn, filled with the promise of healing, no longer haunted by ghosts but embraced by memories that would forever shimmer in our hearts. And as the last shadows melted away, leaving behind a field of warmth and love, I turned to Jacob, a smile emerging on my lips. "It's time to create our own stories," I said. "Yes," he replied, his eyes sparkling with hope, "and this time, we will honor the past while embracing the future." As we took the first steps into a new chapter, each moment felt like a delicate brush of sunlight against my heart, reassuring me that love had transformed, not merely surviving the darkness but illuminating the way forward, boldly threading the light through the shadows. In that moment, surrounded by the brilliance we'd chosen together, I felt an overwhelming surge. The love that we had forged through pain had become our greatest strength. And I understood one absolute truth: it was not about what we lost but what we chose to carry forward as we journeyed toward the horizon ahead. And with every heartbeat united in this rebirth, I realized, love, truest and deepest, does not end, it evolves, and within its embrace, we find a way to transcend the shadows of our pasts and step boldly into the light of our futures.